Good morning, Kayla.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Good to have you. Good to talk to you again.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I got my coffee. I'm wide awake this morning.
Are you ready for us? How are you enjoying Nashville?
Hey, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I've been here about a month now, and, I've been a lot of places in the country, like you mentioned, but Nashville definitely has an energy right now, and it's fun to be covering a lot of football again, so I'm definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, you're coming into the city from a football standpoint at a great time. The Titans look like they've got a good team. And this Vanderbilt team, there's more buzz around this program than I've seen in quite some time. And getting ready for the game this week, I mean, I'm in Tuscaloosa, but you can just feel the excitement. I was telling the story last night on my television show that I've been to Vanderbilt Stadium many times, and I think every time that I've been there, the last time being 2007 when Alabama played up there, Alabama's had as many or more fans in the stands than Vanderbilt fans. I get the feeling now. I know Alabama fans are great at getting tickets, and they probably got some back in the summer, but I got a feeling the Vandy fans that have their tickets now are hanging on to them for this game, and there may be as much black and gold or more so than there'll be crimson and white on Saturday.
Yeah, it's interesting because while I was on the road covering the Volunteers last weekend, we did go back and look at a lot of the shots from the game against Kansas State. And surprisingly, like you said, I mean, the stands were actually full of purple and white at the time. But let me tell you something. After that win, getting a win over a ranked team since the first time, I think since 2011, this fan base has to be excited about what they have right now in this team. And you have to be even more excited to be inviting a team in like Alabama, the number one team in the country. We know the tradition at Alabama. So I'm hoping that there is at least going to be half and half, but I know Tide fans are going to show up big too.
I compare this, having covered Alabama now for many years, in 2010 up in Columbia, it was a circus atmosphere, and Alabama was number one going in there defending national champions, and the Gamecocks, they sprung, and they took care of the Tide, and Stephen Garcia had the game of his life. And then in 2014 over in Oxford, Mississippi, very similar, potentially the biggest game in program history. Again, Alabama number one, and again, they went down as Ole Miss upset the Tide and, of course, paraded the goalpost through the square there in Oxford. I get the impression that as far as the hype to this game and with Vanderbilt trying to take the next step, that the atmosphere is going to be similar, that the people on campus and in that city are looking at this as a game. Obviously, if Vanderbilt can win it, that would, go down arguably as the biggest win in program history. You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, they always are almost second to everything here in this city when it comes to football. I mean, they're second even to the Volunteers, let's face it. Those Tennessee fans are strong here in this city. However, they have a lot to be excited about. And if I were a Vandy fan, having Derek Mason as my head coach and seeing just what he's done with this program and just knowing the type of guy he is, he pumps me up as a reporter. I mean, the guy just has so much life to him, and these players love it. And this is a situation where you're coming in with a team that you've really seen a lot from already this season. And I know they haven't been playing the biggest opponents, but like I said, coming off of a ranked team that you were playing in, and with a win like that, I think that fans have a great opportunity to come here, support their team. And I think it could be a really good game. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in college football. We've all seen stranger things happen. And this team, Derek Mason has this team pumped for their game against Alabama. And if you believe you can win, you can.
Kayla Anderson, our guest here on the Gary Harris Show, courtesy of the Bud Light Hotline. You can follow her on Twitter at Kayla Anderson TV. She's a sports reporter and anchor for WKRN Channel 2 in Nashville. Let's talk about this Vandy football team, Kayla, for a moment. When I look at the defense, and again, outside of Kansas State, the competition has not been great, although Middle Tennessee has given Vanderbilt problems through the years, but Alabama and A&M, the other opponent, but 13 points given up in 3 games. That sounds like Alabama's defense from years past. That's 4 points a game. They have been phenomenal on that side of the ball. Tell me about this Vanderbilt defense. How good is it?
Yeah, I mean, and you do look at the competition they've gone up against, but then we also go back to knowing that Mason is a defensive-minded coach. I mean, he comes from a great line of performances at Stanford, obviously, and that's what he does. I mean, that's his specialty. And so I don't think it's something that is, we're seeing just because they're going up against teams that might not be like an Alabama team every day. But the defense ranked top in scoring, total, and passing defense. I mean, I don't think this is something where you can look at them and say, oh, well, maybe for now they're good, but halfway in the season they're gonna die off. I think they're gonna get better.
I know yesterday, and his name escapes me, but one of the linebackers said at the press conference for Vanderbilt that our goal is to prove that we're the best defense on the field on Saturday. And that's the way they should feel. But they obviously are taking on the challenge of knowing who they're up against, but wanting to prove that they're legit.
And I think that's part of what Derek Mason is trying to do with this group. I think he's trying to install that confidence in them that no matter who you are going up against, whether that be Alabama or Alabama A&M, you have to have the mentality that you can win or you can have a solid performance. Because if you don't believe it, then you're sure as heck not going to be doing that out on the field. So I think what he's doing with these guys is brilliant. And they just have to, I mean, it's going to be a challenge. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Derek Mason said it himself, but the least he can do is install that message in their heads that they can do it. It's not something that's, they can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Offensively, they've been pretty efficient. They had 28 against Middle, 42 against Alabama A&M, and 14 against Kansas State, which was enough. Ralph Webb had all the headlines coming in, and we'll get to him in a moment, but running game has been off to a little bit of a slow start. But Kyle Shermer, their quarterback, has played outstanding. I think he's right around 70% in terms of his completion rate. He hasn't made mistakes. He's made big throws when they've needed it. Tell me about Kyle Shermer.
Yeah, I mean, Shermer has had 8 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I think with me coming in here new, I had heard about him in the past couple of years, and what I've heard and now what I'm seeing is that he's improved greatly. And the 2 games that I saw him in live, I was extremely impressed with what he was doing. He seems to just have a confidence now about himself, and it's not maybe second-guessing himself when he goes out there now. He's just going out there and doing what he needs to do. Yeah, you mentioned his passing efficiency. I think he actually leads the SEC in passing efficiency with like 71%. But I'm impressed with him. The question is how can this offensive line, I mean, you're going up against a different defense and a different front. So how can this offensive line, protect him? Are they going to protect him so he can actually make those throws?
Ralph Webb, one of the greatest running backs in Vanderbilt history. The running game has been a little slow to get going this year based on, what we expected from Webb. We know he's a talented back. What's been the issue there, getting him cranked up?
I don't know. That's a good question because, like you had mentioned, he's the number 1 all-time rusher at Vanderbilt. I mean, he's definitely had a solid career. He's coming into this one, and we don't see this all the time, especially with running backs, but he's making his 41st start. You could just see right there the durability of this back. But I don't know exactly why they haven't gotten the running game off to the start maybe they wanted to. But they have to in this game. They have to have a running game because if they don't, there's no way they're going to win this game. They have to open up the running game a little bit more. I think that he's capable of doing something, but it's just a matter of, balancing out the play, I guess.
Kayla, going back to Saturday night's huge win over a ranked Kansas State team there in Nashville, and a lot of emotion from the Vanderbilt players. It started with the comment that's going around about Alabama, you're next. And then yesterday at the press conference, Derek Mason didn't back off. Hey, we respect Alabama, but we expect to win. The players are kind of echoing that. But the reality is that they haven't beaten Alabama since 1984. They haven't beaten them in Nashville since 1969. My question is, you're around this program. Do you really sense that that's confidence and they believe, or is it more false bravado trying to convince themselves that they can play with Alabama? What's your take on that?
Okay, so I've been around, like I said, I've been around the Volunteers here and I've been around Vanderbilt here for the past, month. And if I were going to say a team that believes in themselves and would say this because they believe in themselves, it would be Vanderbilt.
Okay.
And I say that because I've been around a lot, and when I say a lot of college football in my 13 years.
Yeah, and you just came from Columbus with Ohio State. That's a very similar program to Alabama, so you know what winning looks like.
Yes, I know what winning looks like, and I'm not going to come out here and say Vanderbilt is going to be this, team that's going to go to the national championship. But I will say this, that belief in this program right now and what Derek Mason is doing and trying to do here in Nashville, that is real. And I do believe that if they feel like that is what they can do, then they're going to try to go out there and do it. Not saying they're going to win this game, but they're going to do their best to compete. And I think that's the attitude you need because, hey, they have Florida and Georgia up after Alabama. They can beat those teams.
Finally, I'm wondering if any of your coworkers there in Nashville have picked up on the fact that coming from Columbus, the last time you covered an Alabama game was in the Sugar Bowl in the National College Football semifinal in 2014. Ohio State was an underdog. They beat the Tide. Now Vanderbilt is an underdog. Some positive karma there for the sports team in Nashville. Has anyone picked up on that or asked you about that?
I'm not going to brag or anything, but I have been known to have the hashtag Kayla effect follow me to the teams that I've covered. But no, that, it was amazing. I wanted to go back to that game really quick because we were there in New Orleans covering it. And I'll tell you, none of us thought that Ohio State was going to beat the Tide that year. And, call it whatever you want. It was a kind of an interesting situation with not having JT Barrett and not knowing. Things were just, I guess, a little bit different. It's almost like a fluke in a way. But hey, you never know.
No, you don't.
That good luck trend will follow, right?
The thing I remember now, looking back on that game, is had JT Barrett played, I don't think Ohio State would have won the game. I think the difference was Cardell Jones' ability to throw the football down the field. It's amazing how things work out. Now, I will tell you this. If Vanderbilt wins on Saturday and you're covering the game, you won't be back on my radio show. So that's just so you know in advance. I'm kidding.
At least I know an explanation of why, right?
I'm kidding. Kayla Anderson, thank you so much. And again, congratulations on the new gig in Nashville, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.